El Presidente. You look very regal, actually. You look president-like. My good friend and colleague, LaTasha Waddy, now the president of NFM Lending. How does that sound? Has it sunk in yet?
It hasn't sunk in yet. It feels very weird. I was reading an email the other day and someone was like, I'm copying our president, LaTasha, on this communication. I'm like, who are they talking about?
Well, to those that know you and that watched you grow up, this is no big surprise. You've always been one that dreamed big and reached high and far, and I know you have a lot more to go on that ascent. But in this new role as president of NFM Lending, a top 15 true retail lender, what do you hope to accomplish?
I hope to increase home ownership through NFM. I hope to increase our footprint. I want to have more women in leadership and more of a path for women in leadership. And I also want to see what I can do and continue to do in the financial literacy space for the next generation. I think all those things can happen through NFM, and I'm looking forward to digging in and digging deeper and getting that done.
More opportunities for women. Now, that's something that you and I have talked about for a long time, and this is an example of progress, I think. I mean, there is more.
Yeah.
There's more progress to be made, but there is for all of us every day. What message do you have out there for women who would like to jump into greater accomplishments, greater roles, and more opportunity that you learned kind of from your ascension here?
Yeah, I mean, I think you should not let anyone define your path. I think you need to define your own path and work toward that. And also be curious about all aspects of the organization in which you work. I say that all the time, not just as an attorney having to serve and to understand the client, but for women who are looking for career opportunities. I think you should be curious. You should be open to different ideas, but also don't let anybody define where your career should end.
The attorney hat, really interesting. I'm not sure how many presidents of top 25 or even top 50 IMBs have a president with a legal degree, someone that's practiced. How do you think that will impact how you run the company? Is that an advantage? Is it one of those things where you almost know too much? How can you leverage that? And meanwhile, my microphone fell off, just so you know. I don't know if you see this.
I do. I thought you were just like getting real close to get more intimate in the question. I wasn't sure what was happening there.
You and I, as you know, you and I can't be any closer than we are. But I have a technical issue going on right now as we speak. So this will be interesting to see if I've got to hold this thing the whole time. I think I need to like unplug it and spin it. So I'll tell you what. While you answer that question,
my mic works fine. You deal with that, and I'll talk a little bit about. I'm really a business attorney. I always have been a business attorney, and so I feel that stepping into this role where I'm getting more involved in the business on the financial side, wanting to recruit things of that nature. I think that one, having served as counsel for the organization for 15 years before this promotion, has given me a lot more insight on some of the things that matter to sales, to prospective recruits. So I do think having that aspect of understanding legal documents, understanding agreements, leases, things of that nature, and then combining that with more financial knowledge, more capital markets knowledge, I think it's going to be a powerful conversation to continue to push the organization forward.
I'm just going to hold this thing now. No one will know the difference.
Do it.
So you really exploded onto the scene in this past year. You were
named.
Huh?
It's your fault.
Not at all. I mean, you were named Housing Wire's Woman of Influence. You wrote a book, a bestseller, The Unbelievable Adventures of Gabby. And of Gabby and Josh Ken.
Yeah.
Um, why? Like, what inspired you to get out there and to be seen and heard?
You know, there is a famous quote that I love, which is, there are 2 days that are important in your life: the day that you're born and the day you discover why you were born. And I do believe that during the pandemic, when all of us were at home trying to determine how, whether our families were safe, on the mortgage side, the business was exploding. There was a lot of time to reflect on, what should I be doing more? Do I have a bigger purpose in my career, professionally, personally? And I discovered my why really in the pandemic. And the why is really to use everything I've amassed, whether it's experience or education, to introduce money concepts to children, but also to bring that full circle to the biggest financial decision you're going to make, which is home ownership. And so I know that my experience at NFM, outside of NFM, and in the industry, you know, certainly had me to really dig down and say, I need to write something for this next generation. I need to do something for kids, because otherwise, you know, we're going to continue to hear this narrative that we don't have confident home buyers. We don't have the next generation that's ready or even thinking about buying a home. And so I think you start with having a foundation of healthy money habits. And so that really is the genesis of the books.
Yeah, what was the process like of writing a book?
It was interesting, and I've shared this story before. I had initially started just writing a book to Gabby, my daughter, because I had a son very early, and I wanted to write something to her about being confident and loving herself. And I had started writing that book, and then I was like, well, you know, maybe there's a way for me to still combine writing a book for Gabby with Gabby in it, but take a spin on my financial background. So I started writing this book, and I sent this book to an editor. And I mean, she ripped me apart. She was like, I don't know what you're writing. I don't know, you know, who you're writing to. Like, none of this makes sense. And I was like, well, that's amazing. And, you know, just being who I am, if someone tells me I can't do something, I'm going to spend probably the rest of my life proving them wrong. That's just my thing. But I started writing, and I was on my way somewhere on a plane, and I wrote a poem. I wrote a poem about home ownership with a little girl and her mom. And I sent that back to the editor, and she said, this is it. This is it. You know, write this storyline. This resonates. This feels good. And it took me 4 years from initial idea, concept, etc., to get it to publication last year. And I just finished my second and my third. I name these characters after my children and grandchildren, and I keep having grandchildren. I have another one on the way. So now I'm writing another book based on my next grandchild, which is Dallas. So
You're living a full life, and you're making a lot of impact. I want to talk about this book, and you made sure it ended up in the right hands. It's one thing to just write a book and say, I'm an author, check. But you went to great lengths. You know, like, I bought 50 books. I know you sent them to a school. Any stories you can tell us about just how gratifying the impact has been?
Oh man, I'll tell you, this week, my dad was in Jamaica. He went to look at the devastation there and to see where he could help, and he took books with him. And this week I got a message from a pastor who had given the books to the children in the church. And the children were basically asking all these questions about money, how they could open up bank accounts. It just opened up a massive conversation. And that's the goal. The goal is to reach many kids across the world, really, and to have, you know, that type of impact where they weren't thinking about money or how to spend money or how to earn money, but it's just starting that conversation. So I'm super proud of the impact of the book, of the response to the book, and I'm looking forward to doing more with this book and the books that are coming behind it. But this is like part of the whole ecosystem of LaTasha Waddy, which is I love talking about money. I love talking about saving it, spending it, earning it, and of course I love talking about using it to buy a home, which is a life changer from a generational wealth, from a net worth standpoint. And so, this opportunity to become the president of NFM is something I never would have imagined. And I don't want to spoil the opportunity. I don't want to spoil the seat that I'm in, the influence I have on just saying, wow, that's amazing. She did this. I want to take it and blow it out of the water and do everything I feel like I'm called to do. It really feels like a mission. People say, oh, but you love what you do. It's not work. That's not true. It's still freaking work. That's not
Yeah.
true.
I don't
But
know how you
love
have
the work
all
is
the
amazing.
time. Yeah, I don't know how you have all the time. You get pulled in a million directions. And I just have to say, on a personal note, because I've worked with you for over 15 years, I've never seen you lose your temper. I've never, I know when you're annoyed at me.
Yes.
The other day you called me sassy on our one-on-one, and we have a weekly call. You said you were sassy yesterday. You know that? That was your way of saying, hey, asshole. We have our ways, but you talked about your dad, and I want to talk about him in a minute because what a remarkable man. But you also talked about impact on the dream of home ownership. So let's stay there for another minute. You are the genesis behind NFM's effort to get into the world of CDFI, and you're well along the way of that path. Can you explain to everybody like where that came from, what,
Yeah.
and where you're going to take it? What are we doing here at NFM to make more dreams come true?
Yeah, I am all about access. So I'm all about access, but I'm all about efficiency as well. And we have a lot of resources. We have down payment assistance programs, we have bond programs, we have all these things that can give access to individuals who need additional funds for closing costs, et cetera. But the process administratively is a nightmare. And so, the thought of a CDFI, a community development financial institution, was something I learned from a colleague, and I thought through the usage of it as a down payment assistance vehicle, an in-house down payment assistance vehicle that really is a disruptor because it removes and could potentially remove a lot of these other bond programs, but also make it more efficient and make it more streamlined. And then, with community development financial institutions, you have to have an educational component. So it is a very unique way to dial up another vehicle for down payment assistance plus this educational component. And I'm leaning into it from a technology side. And so I tell the team that's been building this with me for over 2 years, we're a tech company that's going to offer mortgages and financial education. And we're doing some really cool things, like we're creating an app that we're going to get curriculum approved so we can drop it into colleges and high schools for early career. So we're not just going to be able to solve for down payment assistance in a different way, in a disruptive way. We're also going to bootstrap that with all these educational components that, really are my passion in this space.
Yeah, so you talk about a colleague turning you on to it, someone that's near and dear to you who had a lot to do with your journey is Patty Arviello, co-founder of New American Financial, and she had a program called Thrive and Lead.
Yes.
Patty has made just a tremendous impact on so many people in this industry. How did she touch you, and how are her fingerprints on how you carry yourself?
Oh my goodness, it's so much of it. I was looking for a model, when I entered the industry, of someone who had done it at a very high level. And I started to really follow her career very early on. And I was just astonished by, how one ballsy she is and how bold she is in her convictions, but what she's been able to do in this space. And the Thrive and Lead just was a catalyst for me. I told her when I met her for the first time that I really thought I was going to pass out, total fangirl moment. I don't care. I was jumping up and down like I had seen Santa Claus. But I told her in that moment that in Thrive and Lead, that is really what lit the fire under me to get the books completed and to focus on that and get structured on that. And she sent me the most incredible note when I was promoted to president of NFM. And she's vowed to continue to mentor me, which I'm super excited about that. But it's been people like her. I can Terry Schmidt, who is the CEO of Guild. I just literally, shot my shot and sent her a message on LinkedIn. I didn't think she was going to respond. She responded. We set up a call. She spent an hour just talking to me. It's been women like that, and so many women at NFM, but it's been women in this industry that have really just embraced celebrating each other and cheering each other on. And I just want to continue that. And so, I'll be at MBA next week with one of my mentees talking about our experience together. And Patty Arviello, for sure, the Thrive and Lead is one of the things that continues to encourage me to do the same thing, to pay it forward.
All right, let's talk about your family now. You had your first child when you were 15. You're very open about that. Why are you so open about having a child at such a young age, and how has that shaped you?
Well, I mean, first, people think I'm his sister. I'll just start there because they just do. But how it shaped me is I had to be very serious and very responsible at a very early age. And so, having him in high school and trying to figure out what I needed to do to give him a life that made sense and was supportive, and he had the resources, I had to be on my grind at a very early age. And so, a lot of normal activities like homecoming and being on the cheerleading squad, or whatever people are doing in high school, that just was not my narrative. I was focused on getting into college. My father, my parents, his parents were very supportive of what do we need to do to make sure you're able to take care of yourself and this child, because we're not doing it because this was your decision at some point. And so how do we support you through this so that you and Donnell are able to have a life that you're proud of? And I wanted to be a lawyer before I became a mom. And so, my family was very supportive of me seeing that through, and we were a village for sure. And so that is it. And he's an incredible young man. He became a homeowner at 25. And so just a remarkable story. But when that happens so early in your life, you can do one of two things. You can become a statistic and have more children and do that, or you can say, I'm going to take this as an opportunity, as fuel, that I'm going to make something out of my life. And I share that because it doesn't have to be parenthood. It could be anything that happens to you early in life that is a crossroads for what you're going to do next. And if just one person hears this story and they're like, oh my goodness, she had this child and she went to college and law school, and I can do it too. Like that's the purpose of sharing, is you want someone to hear it and you want them to say, I can do it too. And for them to be on a path that looks different than their current circumstances.
Remarkable how you turned that moment into this life you're living, a life of impact and purpose. Let's talk about your dad. Your father's met how many U.S. presidents?
He has met 4 U.S. presidents, and I had to fact check him, so because I wanted to make sure I was accurate, because people love Googling. But he's met Carter, he's met Clinton, he's met Bush #2, and Obama, and he took me along with him when he met with Obama, which he hadn't announced that he was running at the time. And my colleagues were like, "Are you going to go meet this guy? He's going to be president one day." I'm like, "I'm not going to go meet this. He's not going to ever be president." But I went anyway, and it was magic in the room. Like, there is a presence with him that I never felt before. I didn't even know what to say to him. But my dad has met 4 presidents, and I think that's pretty incredible.
Well, I mean, and your dad went from being a meter reader at Pepco to meeting 4 U.S. presidents.
Yeah.
Please explain that.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
How does that happen? He was a meter reader for Pepco when he relocated from North Carolina to DC. He and my mom, madly in love, all the things. He was in a horrific accident while he was on the job, and I actually thought he was going to die if he wasn't going to survive. If he survived, he wasn't going to walk. He's still riding a bike right now at 81, but he sued Pepco because they terminated him. So he sued Pepco because they terminated him. He was able to get an award. He took that money, started his own business, became a government contractor. He was a small business person of the year. He was in the Washington Business Journal, on and on and on. But basically, he took, again, something that could have been super tragic, and he took that money and he got an equity line and he started his business, and his business went from, my brothers who were his first employees in facilities maintenance, all the way up to 800 employees. My brothers ended up starting their own businesses too that are still thriving. And so Antonia is my first best friend. And that is what it is. And so my dad loved politics. He loves everything about government, and being a government contractor, he was able to leverage some of those opportunities to get in those rooms.
How much does your dad mean to you?
My dad means a lot to me, especially now. My mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's about, almost 20 years ago now. She's like, they're going to study her for sure when this is all said and done. And so she's not here with me physically. She's here with me physically. She's not here with me mentally. And so my dad is like really just kind of stepped in the gap for the last 20 years. He's been mom, he's been dad to me. When the kids were little, Josh and Gabby, and I had to travel, he would come stay with them. If I wanted to go away for vacation, he would come stay with them. He's been an advocate for me in many things, a prayer partner. But he's also just continued to encourage me. He was the one. He and my brother Antonius were the ones when I was pregnant that were like, this isn't going to define you. This isn't going to stop you, and we're going to support you however we can to get through this. And so he for sure helped raise Donnell and my brother Antonius and my sister Tanya and my brother Michael. Like, they all are older than me. And so they were, parental figures to Donnell. But, my dad definitely is a huge influence, and he still sends me flowers every Valentine's Day. He still
doesn't everybody?
He does. He still sends me flowers every Valentine's Day. Still sings to me every birthday. And
the flower joke, you and I understand it, but I've known you for a lot of years, and I've seen many a bouquet end up on your desk.
Yes.
Um,
I love flowers. What are you gonna do?
you
You
love
know,
flowers,
I do.
and people love to send them to you, but you got a second chance at love too. I mean,
I
you
did.
you did with Eric,
Yeah,
your husband. Anything
I
you want to say
do.
about him?
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll be watching this.
Yeah, oh, I'm positive. He watches everything. I'm sure he's going to watch this. But yeah, Eric and I, we just celebrated 4 years of marriage. We've known each other for a decade, and he's a retired firefighter. He still talks like he's at the firehouse sometimes, but he is a retired firefighter. But he is awesome, and I'm enjoying him. I'm enjoying marriage, and I'm laughing because when he hears this, he's going to be like, "Oh, geez." But yeah, it's a great feeling to be married, to go through divorce, be single for a while, and get back in the game. So
Yeah. Let's bring this back, as we start to close this out, let's bring
yeah,
this back into mortgage for a
yeah,
minute. Being a woman in a C-suite position in the mortgage business, it's been talked about a lot through Empower and the great work that Marsha Davies and Laura Hopkins now continues to do. I mean, you're at NFM. I've seen you over 15 years, and not necessarily reflective of this environment here at this company. How do you navigate that? What are some of the challenges that you faced, and how have you been able to work through them?
I will say this. I work with very incredible people. Bob, who is now our CEO, has been really such a great mentor and a friend to me. And I can ask Bob a question. He's got a whiteboard. We all know about the whiteboard in Bob's office, but I can ask the question, and he loves to teach. He loves to pour in, and he really has made a lot of the transition not easy, but he's been able to provide me with feedback and support, etc. And you obviously as well, Greg, you've been a huge advocate, and David too. And so, when there are moments in any career, regardless of industry, where you're going to run into obstacles. But if you're working with people that you trust and you respect, it makes it less challenging. And at the end of the day, we all have to remember someone is waiting to get into a home, or someone is waiting for these funds to do something with the equity or put their kids through college or whatever it is. At the corporate level, you can get so lost in the mechanics of compliance and what's going on at the CFPB. I try to continue to remind myself ultimately what we're doing is so important in terms of giving an individual a stellar homeownership experience. And that grounds me when I'm getting ready to lose my mind with a regulator or with a lawsuit, is that ultimately, the bigger picture in all of this is that we're all just trying to get people into homes.
Mm. I could end on that note, and it would be perfect, but I'm not going to. Because you mentioned regulator, and because you're an attorney, but you're an attorney by trade. Just touch on, because you're on the ground floor of this new administration. We're almost a year in, and we hear that the states are stepping up enforcement. We know that some of the people that were pushed out of the CFPB have ended up at the state level.
Yeah.
What are you seeing there?
I'm seeing a lot of aggression, quite honestly, from various states. I'm seeing a lot of coordination in terms of increases in examination. There used to be a time where we would go through an examination and we were done in, a couple of weeks. Now I'm seeing examinations go on for a year at the state level, or even not even that, examinations ending with fines and so much corrective action. And so I do think that, and it doesn't matter whether it's a red or blue state, I do think that I'm seeing states increase their vigilance in terms of examination. Some of it could be that NFM is sizable at this point, but I don't think that's it. I think that in the wake of the CFPB now, I'm assuming getting stood back up, that the state regulators feel like they need to step into the gap on behalf of the consumers, which well intended, right? Like, yes, we want to make sure consumers are not being taken advantage of, but there's a balance between that and being so overly burdensome that you're slowing down or you're costing the organization an inordinate amount of money to participate in the examination experience. And we love our examiners. We do. We get in the rooms with them. We go to conferences with them. We develop relationships with them because ultimately we want to comply. At the same time, we don't want to be in a situation where, again, it stops the process or it slows down what we're supposed to be doing for the consumer because we're busy trying to correct certain things for an examiner that may not, in my opinion, matter at the end of the day.
2025 Woman of Influence, as named by Housing Wire, best-selling author, attorney, president of NFM Lending, proud daughter, mother, grandmother, incredible colleague.
Gigi, not grandma. Go ahead.
Is that what it is? Gigi?
It's Gigi. They and Aunt Tasha in the streets sometimes. Yes, depending on where we are. Yes.
Well, keep shining your light. Really appreciate your time here on One-on-One.
Yes. Thank you, Greg.
All right. See you soon. Bye-bye.
See ya.